Compton scatter, sometimes referred to as incoherent, inelastic, or modified scatter, was first discovered in 1922 by American physicist Arthur H. Compton. This interaction occurs most often at X-ray photon energies between 20 and 40 kilo-electron volts, and is responsible for the majority of scatter produced within diagnostic imaging. In this interaction, an X-ray photon strikes a loosely bound outer shell electron, causing it to be ejected from its shell. This causes the atom to become ionized. When the incident X-ray photon strikes the outer shell electron, it transfers some of its energy to the electron, overcoming its binding energy, causing it to be ejected from its outer shell. After this electron is ejected, it is now referred to as either the recoil electron or the Compton electron. The interactions between these two particles causes the incident photon to change directions through deflection. The photon, now referred to as the Compton scattered photon, can be deflected anywhere from 0 to 180 degrees. Depending on the energy of the scattered photon and its deflection, a combination of things can happen. It can further interact with the body tissues until it is absorbed photoelectrically, adding to the overall patient dose, or it can exit the patient in a variety of directions. The energy of this scattered photon is dependent upon the degree of deflection and the initial energy. The higher the energy of the incident photon, the higher the energy of the scattered photon. As the angle of deflection increases from 0 to 180 degrees, the energy of the scattered photon decreases because more energy is being transferred to the recoil electron. When this deflection occurs at or close to 180 degrees, scattered photon is deflected back towards the radiographer, possibly causing occupational radiation exposure. This is referred to as backscatter. The occurrence of backscatter radiation is highly dependent upon incident photon energy. Low energy incident photons are more likely to produce backscatter, whereas high energy incident photons are more likely to scatter forward towards the IR and cause fog to be produced on the image. Fog produced on the image is detrimental to image quality because the scattered photons, which cause this fog, do not correlate with any body tissues and are therefore not of any diagnostic value. Fog can be reduced through the use of a grid placed between the patient and the IR. This helps to decrease the amount of scatter radiation impacting the IR and decreases fog. A grid should be used on any body part greater than 10 centimeters. The two main factors which determine whether or not Compton scattering occurs are that of incident photon energy and the mass density of the tissue. The higher the incident photon energy, the less likely the photon is to interact, and if it does interact, the angle of deflection is not as great as stated earlier. Mass also affects the occurrence of Compton scattering because when the tissue being exposed has a high mass density, the incident photon are more likely to interact with the various outer shell electrons of the atoms within that tissue because they are much more closely packed together. So why is this all so important? Well, it's important because Compton scatter is the leading contributor of scatter in diagnostic imaging, and not only affects the images produced, but also is a danger to the radiographer and anyone else within the X-ray room or in the vicinity. It is important to note and remember what Compton scatter is and what influences its occurrence in order to take the necessary steps to diminish it. This can be done by selecting the appropriate technical factors for the body part being imaged, along with using a grid on any body part greater than 10 centimeters. It is also important to remember so that the appropriate safety precautions can be made, such as wearing lead gowns when holding patients, and the importance of getting behind the protective shielding before making the X-ray exposure. When this shielding is not available, such as when taking portable X-rays, allowing as much distance as possible between yourself and the patient can decrease occupational exposure. I think we all plan to work in the field of radiography for a very long time and need to minimize the amount of radiation that both our coworkers and we are exposed to.
Free created using Powtoon.